Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll take it over from here. So before I get started on the actual presentation, so I wanted to actual demo. So what I wanted to do is like run in a couple of minutes of presentation. So just to set the context, and then probably the demos will be more interesting. Perfect. So let me get started. So first off, thank you everybody for coming to this presentation, and thank you so much for having me over here as well. So I am Vijay Nadadhur. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Stride AI. So essentially, as our tagline goes, next gen AI for enterprises. So we focus primarily with working with financial institutions and occasional pharma companies. We are in the business of intelligent automation, and what we do. So what we do is we essentially develop applications that is consumed by end customers, right? And this is the core technology. So I wanted to present a little bit about the unified AI platform, what we do. So there's three components to it, the three major components. Let's talk about each of them, like the tech, the build, and the integrations. So in terms of tech, right, we have the doc AI, which is the end-to-end document processing abilities, which means ability to process document in multiple languages, multiple formats, multiple styles, structured and unstructured for various domains. We'll be able to get you all the important parts of data. Either we're trying to analyze the document or extract selective part of the document, we'll be able to do that for you. Then comes the web AI. So essentially, in financial services organizations, we work with primarily investment banks and wholesale bankers. So think about them tracking certain markets or regulators, registries, grabbing the information programmatically on a consistent basis. We could do that for them without writing a single line of code. The final part, the natural language understanding, which is NLU, which means ability to analyze text, summarize text, identify important entities, and do a semantic search or an intelligent search. So this is the core of the tech. And then comes the build part, which is the workflow editor. In the next overview, I'll be able to showcase what exactly how the workflow editor works. And then there are pre-built integrations to the UI as well as API connectors, which means you're never going to write a code to develop a software. You're essentially configuring them. So everything is pre-built you're going to use to get the applications. So this is how the stuff works without writing a single line of code. Right from gathering of the requirements to, so once we deal with data, both web or otherwise, right, or document-based, annotation becomes a big deal. And think about it, if you were to translate your work from from a PDF to an Excel sheet by typing, that's not a lot of fun. So even annotation is an important activity. We have an intelligent annotation system too. Configure all the UI elements, and then you get the solution. So this is the typical flow on which we develop the software. Then moving on, what are the key differentiators, right? So first off, I talk about as a low resource data set. Why did I put it as the first differentiator? The number one reason I put that is because one of the biggest entry barriers to intelligent automation is the amount of data that is required. In 2019, we published a paper called Dexter, Dexter. If you look at Dexter Stride.ai, we were one of the pioneering companies to take this paradigm of relying on lots of data to relying on less data to learn equally effectively. This changed our entire outlook. So that's the reason why we work with financial services industry. So now you talk about high scalability. That's something organizations need. Ease of use and development, absolutely, because if you don't make it easy to use and deploy, because mind you, these are the systems which are deployed on-prem. If you cannot make it simple, you will not find a lot of success. Data security and compliance, again, a hallmark of the financial services industry. As much as customizability is important, it's also very tedious. This is where we have been able to strike the sweet balance. We can customize applications without actually bending our backs to that extent. And the proof of success. The biggest proof of success, I believe, is the kind of customers that we have in the past 8 years of our existence. We work with some of the largest financial institutions across North America and Europe, and to some extent Asia. Now, I want to run you through the three case studies, which will be presenting the demos for you guys. And at any point you guys have questions, we're happy to answer. The first one, enterprise KYC automation. So in enterprise KYC automation, what happens is how we deal with retail customers, take your ID and get some information. However, in enterprises, that's a lot harder. When you're onboarding a large company, you need to identify several things, right? You need to identify where is the company registered, what regulations apply to it, who are the board of directors, are there politically exposed people on it or not? And what are the terms and conditions based on the sector they are in, what risk category it falls into? To do this validation, if you do it manually using online and offline sources, you are going to require about 29 working days. Obviously, no bank is interested to perform this, but they're bound by regulation, right? So what did we do? We presented a KYC orchestration tool that combines the power of artificial intelligence and the data pipelining in a most effective way. What's the result? We were able to completely change the onboarding time to just about 1 day. The flow was now seamless, and the customers, the end users had a ubiquitous experience because enterprise banking seems broken. Everybody's working on different tools, so that's not a lot of fun. We maintain a solid audit trail so that anytime they require the governments or the regulators to check in, they have it. Just on integrations and simplifying the process, we were able to save our customer more than 2 million euros per year. The key technologies that were used from the platform that you previously saw were Doc AI, Web AI, and the multilingual capacity of the platform. Now, moving on to the next one. This is a relatively simpler use case, talks primarily about the document processing abilities for one of the customers in Asia. So they were receiving about 80,000 remittances documents every day, 1 or 2 pages, but a lot of these documents are scanned, and there is a certain distinctive pattern they have to look for in order to fill up the data. Otherwise, they're going to call them back, and then there's going to be a waste of time going back and forth. So we applied the pattern recognition and build a solution, what we call as a remittance processor. We were able to build this in such a way that the reduction of doing the data entry and the quality check time was brought down by 80%. So they just now require 20% of the efforts to get it. We integrated with all their existing systems, which means the data flow was seamless. Now let's move on to the last use case, which is a very, very simple use case. What I wanted to illustrate here was whether your use cases are complex or whether your use cases are simple, we'll be able to help you out. Now, talking about this particular one. So for one of our customers, they use a document called wedding analyst form, which means they want to have a more standardized representation. So every case that comes in, they need to capture this information in a fairly standardized manner. And once captured, that needs to go into the backends. So doing that manually obviously took a lot of time. Again, we created a processor especially for that. So that particular application. What it does, it grabs the information with more than 99.9% accuracy levels, and it saves them tremendous time. The customer is already thinking of integrating this particular piece of software with the current KYC system that they have. With that, I would like to switch over to, I would like to have Raghav present the KYC demo while I walk you through it. What you're seeing on the screen is, okay, an actual use case from the customer, but like not on the real setup, but on the testing environment. So you see here, right? So this is the kind of information the organizations give you: the country of domicile, legal name of the entity. Some of the IDs are mapped internally. So with this set, this is how you get started with the screening, which is the first step of the KYC. So if you initiate the use case, Raghav, can you please get started how it works? So you're going to get the data from important sources like Refinitiv, which is formerly WorldCheck, and then that is now validated against the customer's preferred data sources. And now, once these data sources are available, it can check and see if the chosen data sources are populating the required results or not. Once done, once particularly validated, then you look for the next step, which is screening. Now, in screening, we're able to identify individuals, and there could be a lot of conflicts. Like, you couldn't probably do it by hand. If you did it by hand, again, as I said, a 29 days demo would not look really nice for me here, right? I'm like making it very concise. So we will be able to target the of all the entities that are selected and run the screening. Within like a few seconds, we're able to identify what are the issues, what is resolved, what is not resolved, which would obviously take a lot of time. Then you go dig deeper and see how much of that strength is the matching strength is correct, and that's how you short this. Now, going to the last step here, the last step here would be to go in and figure out like what are the information that you are looking for an individual. Is it correct? Make the necessary validation, add further information if you may, and then you're good to go. With that, I want to conclude this particular presentation. And then I will take over the control back and then run through the remaining two presentations. Okay, so here is the one that we want to particularly talk about is, now I'm uploading the, so the document is getting processed. I uploaded the document, and within maybe 30 seconds, we'll be able to grab all the necessary results. And it will populate the corresponding results as well as the document, how it actually looks. There you go. So now here's the thing, right? This document is a scan document, right? Grabbing every piece of information and separating it by hand obviously is not the easiest of tasks. And imagine doing this on about 80,000 documents that are populated every year. And this format is recommended, and because that's how the backend is configured. If there is any change, you probably the system missed free point, right? So you could make those changes. And you're done. So now it's ready to go. Similarly, for the last use case, which I can now talk about. So all you do is upload a particular document. It will again process, and there you go. So these are the values that are extracted from this particular document, and probably this the selected document didn't have those additional values. But just to kind of like complete the loop, you get an idea of how exactly the intelligent automation works. So without having any specific format, or the last one had certain format, which would be considered a semi-structured document. The previous documents did not even have any specific structure. So it works using the linguistic capacity and all the other core models that we've built over 8 years. With that, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you, everybody.